Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Generation Wrestling Podcast. As always, I'm the franchise, and with me is my tag team partner and co-host, King Tuco. King, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Hey, man, I'm excited, man. We got a special guest with us today, man. I'm ready to talk some wrestling, so let's do it, man. Let's introduce him.
And with that being said, he is TNA superstar, former Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, and former United States Marine, Steve Maclin. Steve, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Man, doing
good.
Great.
And first, before we get started, I want to say thank you for your service, man. It's definitely an honor to have you on the show and talk to you.
Appreciate you, man.
No worries. I appreciate it. It's funny. I always have that conversation. My wife's like, you always get uncomfortable when people say thank you. It's like, because never really do it for that. You just kind of, I don't know. I just did it because I wanted to. And it's just like, oh, yeah, no worries. I had my fun. It's weird. But no, I appreciate it.
No doubt.
Absolutely. But look, Steve, hey, TNA, we are back. In the words of Scott D'Amore, we are fucking back, okay? Yeah. And even with TNA, when it went to Impact Wrestling, fans always generally called it TNA. But for you to come out and have, the very first match in TNA's rebrand against Rich Swann, how did that feel, man, ushering in this new era of TNA Wrestling?
It was awesome. Just to set the tone for the night, especially at Hard to Kill at the Palms. The energy was there in the back. And even once I got out there with the crowd, the energy was just so up. Hearing the TNA chants, and it was just, it was a cool moment. And for even when it was announced that I was on the pre-show, a lot of fans were just like, why is this match on the pre-show? Why is this on the pre-show? It's just like, I embrace that more just because, again, I got to set the tone for the night. I was the first person that you got to see and the first victor in the new era of TNA. And it's just going to show where TNA is going forward. And that's front towards enemy with anybody, with how my merch says it or how I just say it. It's just one of those things where I just embraced that moment. I enjoyed it and smiled a little more while I was out there than normally.
Speaking of embracing that moment, it's been reported that you guys, first of all, did your largest gate in a long time, but even just aesthetically seeing the crowd there from top to bottom, the set looked fantastic. We had the tunnel back on the stage. What did it mean for you to come out? And like you say, TNA is, you setting things off for the new progression of the new era. And I know you said that, you looked at it as an opportunity nonetheless, but a lot of fans were upset because you were on the pre-show. How did that make you feel to know that fans thought of you and you are truly one of the top talents, but for the fans to kind of validate that, like, hey, we wish this guy was on the actual main card instead?
It's just a test of my work that I've done so far, but I appreciate that. But it's also, it's not a sprint anymore. It's a marathon in the wrestling business, and that's where we're going. And for me and Rich to go out there as two former world champions to showcase and set the tone for the night, it felt a lot more weight on my shoulders for that. And again, setting the tone. But it is much appreciated for fans to feel that way. Do I wish I was on the main card? Who doesn't? Do I wish I was the main event? But it's also, any match can steal the show any night. It's kind of like football. It's any given Sunday kind of mentality, and it's the same thing in pro wrestling. Any match can steal the show at any moment in the card, whether it's a short match that's 5-10 minutes or it's a 20 to 30-minute match. And it's one of those things where we had to get more eyes on the TNA app, get more people watching the pre-show, and that's also with the tag match as well. With EY and Frankie versus Brian and Eddie Edwards, you had Crazy Steve versus Tommy Dreamer, and it's just, you're getting bigger marquee matchups on those moments for people to tune into the app as well.
Absolutely, King.
With all the new championships that they just presented to everybody, I just want to get your thoughts real quick on, man. What are your thoughts on the new belts that they presented for everybody? I like them. They look awesome.
They're beautiful. I even told Trinity, I was like, I love that white. Just reminds me of that the old IC strap when I grew up loving. And it just looks cool, and especially with her, with all the colorful that she has with the glow, it just pops more. And then even the world title just. There's actual gold on it. It shines. And I'm like, I want that again.
Right. Most definitely. Okay, well, speaking of wanting something, you as a former champion, you have guys like now Nic Nemeth who have now appeared, and they are now in the company with you guys. What does that do for you, having that new guy that you now have to, that new, I guess, perk of the mountain that you now have to climb, because now you have a new person coming in. He's going to go straight to the top. What does that do for you? As far as wanting to get back to holding that goal?
That just lights a fire under my ass. You have somebody like Nic Nemeth who's been doing this for so long, and it's funny that everybody says he's underrated, but he's not. He's very much, he's a star.
Yeah.
And for a star like him to come in and to come into TNA and with the experience that he has and the name that he has, because it brings another aura and it brings a lot more eyes onto the product, which is a good thing, because we're trying to move in that direction where we're building TNA to be better and bigger than it ever was. And I think I've done that, and I've been a part of that since my time being there since 2021. And now for this to be the start of this new era in TNA, it's really cool to have something like that happen. And I'm very much looking forward to one day getting in the ring with him.
Awesome.
Speaking of being the former world champion, what was it like for you to be, you know, the Impact World Champion, and then for your wife DEONNA PURRAZZO at the time to also be the Knockouts World Champion? What were the conversations like in the household during that time?
It was cool, man. It was just something we never put into. It just never thought it would happen. Like on the, especially we knew we'd be champions at some point, or at least I knew I would be a champion because she was already a champion at that time. Before that and that same night as well, but just to do it on the same night, it was a cool moment. Just to be in gorilla or go position there, but gorilla, I call it, and everybody usually calls it. But just to be there to before each other's match, try to calm each other's nerves down, and just it was, I don't know, it was one of the best nights. Other than getting married to my wife, that was one of the best nights of my life. So it was really cool. It's a good moment.
With you being in TNA Impact and you've been making a mark, a name for yourself, because you've been coming in and you've been having some incredible matches with a lot of guys, Callahan and you started off with Petey Williams and Frankie Kazan. You've been in a lot of matches with a lot of people. What is it for you to be in some of the matches with the original TNA guys? So when you see the Alex Shelley's and the Chris Sabins, and what does it do for you when you go in a match with some of them? If
it just lets me go into it with putting a lot more weight on my shoulders to know what the experience they have and the name they have and they carry for the brand, and for me to try to build my name, but also build the brand of TNA as well. Like I want my name to make people want to watch TNA. So to have these marquee matches and to have world title matches facing Alex Shelley, Sabin, Kazarian, hopefully one day Eric Young, Eddie Edwards. Like Eddie Edwards just hit 10 years in the company straight. So it's one of those things where you take a lot of pride into it, because I know they take a lot of pride with the name and the brand, but also who they are as well. And those are guys that I look to, and it's a great locker room that we do have, both the guys and the girls. And it's just a very family oriented. We're all motivated and push each other. And when we do get in the ring, it's fun to just kind of be like, hey, do you think you could do this? Maybe this, or like, it's just fun to bring a lot out of each other and bring that competitive edge too.
Okay, so when we talked about, TNA and you want to make a name for yourself, TNA has definitely been a proving ground for people who've come from other companies and, like you say, may have not been utilized as best as we would like them, or, maybe started and stopped elsewhere. But TNA has proven, man, you can take guys and girls and really, really have them make a name for themselves. With you, TNA, where do you see TNA in the next 5 years from now? Because it seems like, I know it hasn't been an overnight thing, but we're hard to kill. Just hearing the fans and just seeing that, it really, really brought back that vibe from 2008, 2009, early 2000s, man. And it really made me feel like I was back in that era. And it seems like Scott D'Amore has done a great job, not only Scott, but the whole TNA company, of really trying to capture what was old and bringing it to the present and really, really giving fans that hardcore nostalgia while still pushing forward.
For me, I usually take everything one match at a time, and that's kind of how I look at it. And from my time being with TNA from 2021 till now, it's one of those things where it's just you keep the ball rolling. You keep gaining that momentum. Coming out of COVID with no fans, then having fans again, and then houses keep building and building up more and more wherever we go for pay-per-views. And then now with TNA coming back, being at the Palms to a sellout crowd, the biggest gate that we've had in a decade or more. I forget what the stat was, but I know it's the biggest gate we've had in a long time. It's just a step in the right direction. And for the way I approach everything is one match at a time and one show at a time. And I'm sure that's what a lot of the management is going to do as well. How do we make it better? How do we make this? Obviously, production got to try out new entrants with the jib on the stage, just depending on the building as well. But I know that tunnel's there. Me, I love that tunnel. That tunnel is so freaking cool. Yeah. It just gives that old vibe. Even when I first saw it, it made me think back to the Attitude Era of like 98 time frame when they had the big the Trust tunnel that way. And then it's also kind of like that old TNA look where you had the Impact Zone tunnel. So it's just, again, one night at a time is how I take it. I'm sure that's how they're doing it, but I'm sure they have plans for the future.
what are your plans now that you've kind of gotten yourself, you started the new year off on the right foot, you got a victory, you're putting yourself back into that category that, hey, I need to be the number one contender. Who's that next person for you right now that you definitely need to get your hands on, because you just want to smack them around for a while?
Well, you're gonna have to watch tomorrow night on TNA.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna give any spoilers. We gotta watch tomorrow night. So
hey, he tried it, didn't he?
I tried. You always gotta try.
Yeah, and then we also have we're here in Orlando this week on the 19th and 20th for tapings down here in Kissimmee at the Heritage Park. So it's really cool to be kind of close to home here in Orlando. I've been down here 10 years now, from my time in NXT when I moved down here till now. It's wrestling in this area is awesome, especially independent scene is starting to grow a little bit as well, which is fun to see. But to be back here, especially where TNA got its start, mostly in Universal for the tapings. I actually just had a conversation with Ross. He was helping me out earlier with one of the media at the radio station early at iHeartRadio, and it was just funny. I was like, oh, why didn't they do Universal? And it just, so I way above our pay grade on the answer, but I was just like, oh, that would have been kind of cool. But it is also cool to be back at Heritage Park, where we've been before, which is a cool setting, and just cool to be back in Orlando.
It's funny you missed.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, bro. Real quick, as someone who's new, like I said, you're part of the newer roster of people that's in the company. Would you ever want to wrestle inside the 6-sided ring? If there was ever a chance to say, hey, man, we want to bring this thing back, would you ever want to partake in it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so when it first happened, like a lot of us were like, oh, the 6-sided, this 6-sided. And then my brain, my Rolodex of like, all right, how could I do this? How could I like just certain ideas were popping in my head, because we never really got a full answer of what was happening in the new year. Everything was kind of hush hush from us, from BFG on, of what was going on with the sets and the different looks. And obviously with the match graphics that are coming out now socially, just everything being announced. It's just, again, it's this just fire has been lit under everybody's ass. And it's just trying to be the best brand out there, which I've said for a long time. I think TNA has been the best television show wrestling-wise on television for a while. Story from A to Z, from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. You have whatever flavor of wrestling that you like is on it. And I try to tell everybody that.
Most definitely.
I definitely feel like you guys, especially within, I don't know what it has been about maybe the last 2.5, 3 years, but I feel like you guys, every single pay-per-view have been knocking it out of the park. Hard to Kill to me is become one of my favorite pay-per-views of any company, right? But you guys, what is it about TNA? What is it about Impact Wrestling? Why do you think the company is so resilient and fans have still remained so loyal to you guys?
A lot of people throw the phrase of it's the land of misfit toys with a lot of the talent. And I just think it's hungry talent, the love and passion for the game of pro wrestling that we have, and that to break the mold of what we were told we couldn't do, or it's just an opportunity for you to show who you actually are. You kind of, if you fit into those storylines, you create those opportunities for yourself, and you take advantage of those opportunities, and you go above and beyond and knock it out of the park. That's where a lot of work starts to come out and show. I think I've shown that with my own work and of what I've done since I've been there, and I've tried to do everything I can one match at a time. And I want to go out there and steal the show, but to where I am on the card as well and what the storyline is. But yeah, that's just one of those things that just can't die. It's really, we lived up to the name of Hard to Kill. It was said in the intro for Hard to Kill itself that TNA is hard to kill, and it truly is.
Who is that person for you right now that you see and you're like, man, I like watching this person in the ring. I like when this person comes out. I like when this person, when they, they speak. I like what they do. Who is that person for you right now that's in the company?
For the guy's side, obviously Josh Alexander. I think that's an opponent that I want to get back to. I think we have a lot of unfinished business there, especially on a bigger stage, a bigger pay-per-view. One of the big four would be great. But anytime to step in the ring with him. And on the women's side, I always loved watching my wife until she left. But Jordynne Grace has jumped up there too, because she's a person that works her ass off just by the way she looks. She's so disciplined in the way she does things, and she'll kick the shit out of you, man. It's just, she's one of those women that you're just like, yeah, don't mess with her.
Hey, man, you ain't lying.
So,
okay, as we get ready to wind down here, a couple more things for you right now. We got AJ Francis, who made his Impact Wrestling, TNA debut. You got Nic Nemeth. You got the partnership being announced with AAA. Right now, what is a dream match and a dream opponent you have right now that you haven't touched, you haven't locked, up in the ring with? Who is that one match and that one opponent for you when it's all said and done, you got to get it done?
Nic Nemeth right now. He's on top of my list.
I like that. I like that. Okay, now what kind of match would it be if you had your way?
Straight up.
Okay.
I like it.
Let's see who's better.
Okay.
Because you know that in ring they gonna go back and forth. Right? We already know that's gonna be a back and forth match right there. So
I'd rather a straight up match, because if it's no disqualification, anything, that's kind of more in my wheelhouse. I think. I know he's got a lot of experience with the time is doing stuff with stipulations and his time with WWE, but I think that's it's more in my wheelhouse with the violence. I'd rather win up in a straight wrestling match.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Go ahead, man. No, go ahead.
Yeah. Speaking of violence, you got guys like yourself, you got guys like PCO, you got guys like Eric Young, who's not afraid to push the envelope. How do you get yourself mentally in that state of, okay, I know I'm about to bleed. I know I'm probably going to get cut up. I know I'm going to go through it. Mm-hmm. What do you do to get yourself in that mind frame before you even go out there?
I'm a Marine. I'm already set that way.
I got
There's just like shit's gonna happen. Just go with it. You can't control anything unless what you're involved in. And if you're trying to go down that straight path on those directions, whatever the ETA is supposed to be, and there's an accident, you got to go a different way. You got to take that detour. If that's the way we got to go around it, then we got to go around it.
I love it.
Then who is that person in the past year or so that has given you that match where it's like, man, I might have needed to rethink this? Who is that person that you like, man, I don't know if I would ever get in that ring with that person again, not because they're unsafe, but just how crazy they are and what they did.
I think I'm the crazy of the crazy here, but PCO would be another match I'd get back in there with. I think our Under Siege match kind of set the table of what I'm willing to go through, especially for the world title.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Okay.
I love it. Well, look, man, we're not gonna hold you up because we know you've had a very, very busy day. Steve, we got the Impact tapings in Orlando the 18th and the 19th. Where can people find you on social media? Tell them.
At Steve Maclin, Twitter and Instagram. I actually just promoted my new T-shirt for TNA shop, so go get your new Front Towards Enemy shirt. Also for merch, anything 8x10s wise autograph. If you miss me at a show or at an independent show, I have my big cartel store, Steve Maclin as well. Just hit me up on that. If you can't reach me on there, reach my email, which is in my bio on my Instagram and Twitter as well.
And also, just to let you know, we will be tagging all your merch, all your websites, everything down below in the description of this video. As always, Steve, we appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Man, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Generation Wrestling Podcast. I'm the Franchise. He's the King. And he's your guy, Steve Maclin. See you later.